Good afternoon. Welcome back to United TV. Marcus Rashford return seems to be a story being pushed by a lot of different sources today. So I'm going to go through Fabrizio. I'm going to go through David Ornstein's and what they've said as well regarding some statements they put out this morning, which if you don't want Marcus Rashford to return, then the news might not be very good for you. If you want Marcus Rashford to come back into the team, maybe you're going to be happy with some of the stories that are coming out. But we're not going to find out for a few weeks. Marcus Rashford, after the World Cup, is going to be away for a few weeks. But a potential return, a date might be, I think it's like the 10th of August, potentially might return. Also, there's a few interviews with Wayne Rooney and with Rio Ferdinand regarding like why would this happen? Why would Carrick be interested in getting Marcus Rashford back? How does this implicate? How does this factor into the transfer window? Does this mean that Dorgu is going to be a left back? Does this mean that Man United won't sign a certain attacking player? Is this a better option than Somerville? Is this a better option than some of the other targets we've been looking at as well? Like Undai, you probably look at Rafael Leao. Is this a better option? And I think most Man United fans thought that Ineos had decided Marcus Rashford was going to leave. So is this going to be a bit of a backtrack on that? And is this just an indication that Man United have been trying to sell Marcus Rashford for probably about 18 months? And Aston Villa, Barcelona loans, we put in like say obligations or options to buy at not an expensive price, and Marcus Rashford has not sold. But we'll go through the stories, and this is an opportunity, obviously, to post what you think regarding now. Should Man United consider reintegrating Rashford if you can't sell him? Because at that point in time, do you think Man United should be just loaning Rashford out every single season, helping another club? Or what should Man United do with this one? I think we priced him quite low. And at the moment, we've seen other players sell above him. And I suppose it's going to be a judgment call for Michael Carrick of what he wants to do. At the moment, though, I think it's a difficult one. You've got to try and get this right. So if Michael Carrick does take Rashford back into the team, then he's probably going to have to be responsible for what happens. And because I think Ineos wanted him out, but again, and I say this both ways as well. You know, if Michael Carrick takes Rashford back, Rashford plays very well, then credit to Carrick. I guess some fans won't be happy. If Marcus Rashford comes back and it's a disaster, then it's probably going to be a big problem for Carrick. So we'll go into the news. Just before we start, this is an opportunity to express your views as well. So welcome everyone in the chat. Welcome G Wolf, Bilal, Jeff, Grace, and looking at a few other fans as well. Welcome the Berber, Kenny, Cody. Lots of legends in here this morning. Yardi as well. So let me know what you're thinking. I'll go through your comments as we go through the news stories. So we're going to start with David Ornstein, generally the most credible source on Manchester United, I think, in the media at the moment. We probably, most of us will agree on that. He's usually just posting things that are going to happen. One of these things regarding this one is there was a release clause of £40 million, which that has now ended. So if you want to buy Marcus Rashford, you've got to negotiate directly with the club. So that's all that's changed. He could still go for 40. He could potentially go for less as well if Man United want to move him on and they want to push this deal through. And approaches regarding this one as well. I think one of the things that's going to be disappointing news is apparently Marcus Rashford has also turned down offers better than the deal he currently gets at Manchester United. So when I saw that this is probably not ideal, and this might be Fenerbahce. If we're looking at the story we saw regarding, like, say, Fabrizio Romano is usually pretty good regarding things that have happened as well. And he said that plans to move to Turkey, that's not going to happen. I don't think anybody thought that Marcus Rashford was going to move to Fenerbahce. And I mean, Green was just gone there. I don't think Marcus Rashford was looking at moving to the Turkish league. But apparently, Marcus Rashford has turned down offers that would give him more money than his contract at Manchester United. So when I read that, that's the first piece of news I've read where I think, now, Marcus Rashford has had an offer on the table that must have been, if we consider Man United are paying him, what, 300, 350, whatever it is going to be with Champions League bonus, it's obviously a huge amount of money. And it seems that Man United, actually, Marcus Rashford has turned down more money than that. So I'm not 100% sure what his motivation is, whether Marcus Rashford, whether he wants to come back to Man United because there's no better options. I don't think he's going to consider someone like Fenerbahce. I think he'd probably rather stay at Man United. If he doesn't get into the team, hold out for a better team. If he stays at the club and his contract runs down, eventually maybe he's going to get a move and maybe it's going to open up more opportunities. But at the moment, I can see why he's not gone to Fenerbahce. That's not a surprise. I wonder if that's the only club that's offered him more money. So I'm guessing that a lot of other clubs are not going to be throwing crazy money at him as well. So at this point, I'll jump into the chat and see what you're thinking. But the news that Marcus Rashford's turned down big money moves, I suppose if it's Fenerbahce, then maybe it's not a surprise. I mean, once you're getting paid 300, 350, then the money must be any offer above that is probably going to be he's still going to be loaded, but he's probably not looking to a move to that league. So if he does move to Turkey, it's probably game over then in terms of like his profile will just drop a lot. So maybe he'd rather be in and around the Man United team. But I'll just take some comments and see what people are thinking initially. Welcome, Andy. Good to see you in the chat. So you take him at Blackpool. I don't think Blackpool have got the budget, to be fair. I'd say. Welcome, Boomy, to the chat. Kenny Fan TV says Rashford wants a top club, which means he's going to stay. Unfortunately, the question I've got is like, who's got the money to pay Rashford, and which are the clubs that he would go to? Like we know, we've seen Adeyemi and we've seen Gordon go to Barcelona. I think that door is shut. Like it must be shut. I don't think Barcelona are going to come in with a cheeky offer and try and get him cheap. Like Man United would not go for that. If you look at it, like, is Bayern Munich an off? Is Bayern Munich a possibility? Like, is that going to be something that could be a possibility? Because if you're looking at Bayern Munich and Real Madrid as bigger clubs as well, there is rumours around. I think a lot of people think that maybe Real Madrid are going to try and make a move for Elise, which would be astronomical money. No doubt. We're talking about if Real Madrid buy Elise, it could be one of those record transfer fees, and it would open up a question mark over. So they're not like would Paris Saint-Germain be interested in him in that instance? I don't think they would be, and I think Barcola is also linked to them. I mean, Sane left Bayern Munich, so I can see that Bayern Munich were looking at Gordon. I think that's where the Bayern Munich interest is. They were looking at Gordon, they didn't get him. Real Madrid, they've got options. They're going to go for Elise. Paris Saint-Germain, if they lose Elise, if Bayern Munich lose Elise, then that could be a big deal. Barcola, so potentially, like these are the options for Man United. Like Diamonde was another option as well. So I'll go through some of these as well. So Turkish clubs happy to pay the wages, not the fees. That's a good point, actually. Didn't they get Sane and pay him 400k? So better for us to sell him to Saudi for a higher fee. Bayern Munich loan is our last hope, says Pulp. Do you think Man United consider a loan deal, though? Because that's probably one of the things I was thinking. There's going to be potentially some big moves in wingers, and I said maybe the catalyst for that will be a move for Elise. Bayern Munich say Elise is not for sale. Real Madrid may be prepared to bid like 200 plus, which might get the deal done. Then suddenly you think, right, who did Bayern Munich go for? Would they look at if Bayern Munich sell a player for 200 million, then Man United are not going to loan them Marcus Rashford. Like that would have to be a transfer fee. I think Turkish clubs also looking to pay wages, not the fees. Man United are not looking to loan him either. So no, not at all. At all. Jim says you would take £10 million for Rashford. Will save in the long run. So you would like. So the problem with this one, Jim, is going to be who's offering money for Marcus Rashford at the moment that Marcus Rashford will go to. So Fenerbahce was the team that we looked at and said, okay, Fenerbahce want Rashford. They can afford to pay his salary, no problem. I'm sure Fenerbahce, they could find £10 million, but Marcus Rashford's not going to go there. Barcelona, I don't think Man United are going to do a deal with Barcelona, like a cut price deal. I don't think we're going to see him move to Real Madrid either. They're looking at different players. I can't see Paris Saint-Germain taking Rashford either. It just feels like there's not many options there. It feels like there's not a lot of options in there. So yeah, I don't know if that's an option, Boomy. Do you remember Memphis Depay? I think he tried his hand at hip hop. I mean, at the time, it's probably about as good as his football career at Manchester United. Stephanie says Rashford's name is only being mentioned because of Carrick link. That could be his downfall. So well done, Glazers, for creating this mess. Yeah, this does feel a little bit like whatever happens with Marcus Rashford. Are we seeing signs where they're going to engineer it towards blaming Carrick if it goes wrong? I wouldn't be surprised, Stephanie. that maybe you have to look at where the media is coming from. So this is a couple of sources I was going to talk about as well. So Marcus Rashford and Rio Ferdinand talking about Rashford saying Ineos wanted to get rid of Rashford, and we know that. We can say, well, was it Amarin? Was it Ineos? And apparently it was Amarin's. Amarin didn't had some say, but the decision was taken before Amarin joined. The decision was always taken to move out players like Rashford, try and replace them with younger players on lower salaries, but also try and get more quality into the team. So I think the situation with say Amarin, Rashford, it was mainly Ineos. And I think Rio Ferdinand's been asked recently what's changed. Like Ineos wanted him gone. Where's this kind of story coming from that you might reintegrate him? And Rio Ferdinand, again, some of the things Rio Ferdinand says, they're probably just Rio's opinion, so don't read too much into it. He's obviously going to have more contacts at the club than any of us, and obviously he's going to speak to a lot of people around it. And he knows Michael Carrick as well. So his feeling, like the thing that Rio Ferdinand is saying is he thinks that Michael Carrick remembers the player that Rashford was. Obviously, the skill set Rashford's got, we saw it in the World Cup. If you're watching England versus Argentina, I think most people watching, if you want England to win, you'd rather see Rashford coming on as a substitute rather than a defensive player. So clearly, like Rashford would have, would potentially help Michael Carrick next season. A goal scoring record of like 1 in 3 is obviously pretty decent. So um, you can see why Michael Carrick would be open to it. The question is going to be is Michael Carrick had a really good team spirit last season. Is this going to be a mistake? Again, I'm not saying that this is down to Michael Carrick, but it's definitely said this seems to be what's been put out there as well. So it does seem to be that if Rashford stays, and let me just say my opinion on this. If Marcus Rashford stays at Manchester United, it's not a Carrick decision. It's Manchester United not able to sell him, and it's Marcus Rashford not having a club that he wants to go to. It's pretty similar to the Anthony situation where Anthony wanted one club, Marcus Rashford wanted Barcelona, hasn't got Barcelona. So the question is going to be Man United can't sell him. He's going to come back to the club potentially. At least he's going to come back after his break from the World Cup. And suddenly the media is saying this is like a decision by Carrick. This is not a decision by Carrick. Carrick's the head coach. Carrick does not make the decisions of which players are sold. And Carrick won't be having much say in this situation either. But it does seem to be that if he plays in the first team, then what's Michael Carrick supposed to do? If Manchester United don't buy him a winger, and Michael Carrick wants to put out the best possible team, and you've got Marcus Rashford training with the squad, like it seems a bit ridiculous, doesn't it? So I hope that there isn't. I hope there isn't more media that's pushing like Michael Carrick's story because I do get the feeling that Michael Carrick is the convenient scapegoat if something goes wrong for the Glazers. I mean, we should keep the energy on the Glazers. It's their decision at the end of the day. In the same way that like the bomb squad wasn't really Amarin, that was Ineos as well. So I think the transfers, players coming into the club, players leaving the club, the amount of say a head coach gets is being diminished every year at Manchester United. So I think that the blame has got to be on Ineos and the Glazers if something goes wrong with the squad. Like we can't really blame the managers anymore because they don't have a lot of say. So let me just jump in for a few more comments. So imagine every question at Carrick Press is going to be Rashford return. It does seem to be that it seems to be setting up that sort of situation, doesn't it? And say Grace is saying, why is Carrick so scared of moving players on? Why hasn't Xerxes or Collier left? Again, Grace, I think that the blame needs to be pushed towards Ineos and the Glazers. Like the situation with Xerxes, if Man United keep Xerxes, it's got to be an inability to buy new players, isn't it? Like nobody thinks Xerxes should be in and around the first team. If Xerxes is a Manchester United player, then something's gone wrong, isn't it? Like you'd be looking at it thinking, come on, Xerxes has been here 2 years. He contributes almost nothing attack wise. So there's no reason why. Michael Carrick, if he's looking at Xerxes, there's no way he wants him in the team. But the problem is, Man United are just not very good at selling players. So if you're Michael Carrick, and you're sat in a press conference, you're not going to come out and say, if I'm Michael Carrick and you manager Manchester United, you're not going to say in a press conference, Xerxes not good enough. Like Xerxes, there's no point in insulting your players publicly and then hoping to sell them because that's just not going to work. But I don't think Michael Carrick's scared at all, Grace. I think Michael Carrick would happily move on some of these deadwood players for much better options. 100%. Uh, does the Roma Somerville story suggest we cut a deal for Kone, let them have Somerville for favourable terms, or is it more of a hurry up to United to get Somerville? So maybe this is like being pushed by journalists, like the Somerville story. I read somewhere that, and I don't know if it's true, but I read somewhere that Manchester United they moved for Somerville if they move on Rashford. So a lot of the news has been it's not great, is it? But when you read that Man United want to sell Xerxes first, then get a striker in, you think, okay, well Xerxes shouldn't really be featuring in the team anyway, so get a striker in because Xerxes is going to offer not much. And when we read the story saying that Man United want to offload Rashford first, then get a winger in, I start thinking, well, if you need to get Rashford sold before you buy a winger in, we're never going to get one. So if there's a credible link between, say, Roma and Somerville, I don't think Manchester United are going to be in the way. If Man United have to wait until there's a deal done with Rashford, then we're not going to do any deals for a winger this season. Like we're going to be like Rashford's probably, if he does move, it's going to be right at the end. So I think that's a bit ridiculous as well. Um, Whoever says, why would we want to ruin Dorgu on the left by giving Rashford a chance? Number, that's a pretty high number. Um, Again, this is down to Michael Carrick, isn't it? Michael Carrick's job has got to be keep the players happy, keep the first team. Like the first team, for me, had a really good environment towards the end of the season. Everybody was playing well. And this is something that I think Michael Carrick's going to be effectively, he's going to be judged on results, isn't he? And he's going to be judged on if he does want to bring back Marcus Rashford, it's going to be it's going to be a tricky situation for Carrick. I think Carrick would much rather work with a fresh player coming in, clean slate, none of the drama. So I think it's going to be like an added issue, isn't it? I think we're already looking at it thinking, Michael Carrick's already going to be potentially having a wait for the new players to come in, and maybe this is going to be a further complication. I don't know. One of the things I wanted to also say is Wayne Rooney has been talking about this. And Wayne Rooney's view is if he's Marcus Rashford, he's going to a different club. And I think Wayne Rooney's taking a different view to Rio Ferdinand. And he's looking at it from the player perspective, thinking his colleagues aren't going to want him. Bridges have been burned. So as far as like Wayne Rooney's concerned, I think he thinks it's a mistake for Marcus Rashford to come back. And he's looking at it from a player perspective, like, do you want to go back to a club where they've moved on past you? It seems that bridges have been burnt. It seems that maybe I say when you say colleagues, I think there's a few players that, based on Rashford being on loan, like Cunha and Buemo, Sesko, that these are not really they haven't really been colleagues, have they? What's the relationship between him and Bruno Fernandes? If that's not great, that's probably not ideal as well. And so we don't know at the moment. Like we don't really know the relationship between Rashford and colleagues. I know that this can be speculated as well, but I can't really say there's a bad relationship when I don't know. But I can't remember exactly how it ended in the end. I think Rashford left quite abruptly, so I don't know if there's any sort of problems between him and the players. If there is, then is it as serious as Valverde and Tchouameni coming to blows? I'm not sure. It's that so we'll have to see. Cody says the only way it works is if he hates how Barcelona did him dirty so bad that he'd rather stay. Yeah, no, you can't trust Barcelona, can you? You cannot trust Barcelona. And big up to Matty in the chat. Good to see you, Matty. Hope you're having a good day. Stephanie says Villa Champions League football say surprised that they don't want Rashford back there. Do you think there's a difference now that now Manchester United at the moment we're going to be in the Champions League as well? Is the situation going to be like why would we strengthen Aston Villa? Like when Aston Villa had Marcus Rashford, then now we're taking Tielemans from them. Why would we want to give them Rashford, a player that could potentially help Aston Villa compete for Champions League positions? So I think it's probably a mistake to let him go to Aston Villa at this stage now because Aston Villa Yeah, he when he was playing for Aston Villa, he helped them almost beat PSG. So I wouldn't be sending any good players to Aston Villa's way. That I think that's why the difficulty is going to be. If you look at the teams that can afford Marcus Rashford, a lot of Premier League teams, and I think Marcus Rashford actually said he wouldn't play for another Premier League team. But also at this point, I don't think you can strengthen a rival team. No matter what you think of Rashford, you don't want to send a player to their team that's going to help them at all. That for me would be a bit of a mistake. But Wayne Rooney's thoughts on this, though, just to go back to Wayne Rooney, is he thinks that Marcus Rashford should not consider returning, which does mean that should Marcus Rashford just take any offer to move out of the club, I don't think that's going to happen. And maybe I don't know how much left is on Marcus Rashford's contract. I think Marcus Rashford would rather stay at United and then eventually leave on a free. And G was saying that I think most people think the same thing. G I think most people think he's burnt his bridges, and it's going to be difficult to see him integrated back into the team as well. And also, the big question is: does this affect Man United's transfer deals? Like, did a Marcus Rashford sale was that required to actually go for any attacking player? Because we have seen it said Marcus Rashford exit, then we can buy a winger. Xerxes exit, then we can buy a striker. And I think at the moment, given the size of the squad, that if Marcus Rashford's going to leave or Marcus Rashford's going to return, we still need to buy options anyway. We've got a lot more games next season. And Xerxes, we need to replace Xerxes as soon as possible. I think Xerxes is about as effective as Onana was as a goalkeeper. He doesn't score goals in the same way that Onana doesn't save shots. So for me, you've got to get a replacement as soon as possible. Mark says, I can't see this club ever winning a Premier League or Champions League for decades and say, you're saying that's the sad reality. I don't know if we're like we got some good players in the squad, Malps. I do like. Okay, I'm not going to say we're going to win the Premier League anytime soon until we suddenly see the squad at the moment. I don't think it's capable of challenging for a Premier League title. I think it's going to be I don't know probably capable of getting top four. Like that's probably the limit of the club at the moment. But I don't think it's going to be dropping down massively. But again, it depends on the ambition of the owners needs to change massively for this. So you'd rather Villa than Barcelona? You can't strengthen a rival team. Like it doesn't make any sense. If Man United miss out on Champions League football and Aston Villa get Champions League football and they've got Rashford, that would just be a bit incompetent, wouldn't it? We can save what 15, 18 million pounds by loaning Rashford to Aston Villa. But if you miss out on Champions League football, it would be a bit stupid. But even if he doesn't play for Man United, you can't strengthen a rival team. That's why it makes it really annoying, isn't it? Um, yeah, no, Jeff is right as well. Regarding the situation, Marcus Rashford's under contract. We gave him that contract. The issue is going to be it might very well be the same situation we saw with Sancho. That when you give a player a really big contract, and unfortunately, Man United gave that contract and handed that contract out. As soon as you've done that, Marcus Rashford, it's up to him. Like if he stays at Manchester United, he goes on loan. He chose to go on loan to Aston Villa. He chose to go on loan to Barcelona, and it looked like he was trying to. Aston Villa was pretty much about putting him in the shop window. The loan to Barcelona, I think Rashford hoped that he could get a full-time deal there. We know now that Barcelona are not that sort of club. They just used Rashford for what they needed. They got a league title in Spain, and now they want to just like go for Gordon and Adiemi. So Gordon's expensive, but I guess his salary is probably half of Rashford. So overall, this probably works out slightly cheaper. Adiemi was actually very cheap as well, so I can see why they've done those deals. But no, under contract, like Jeff said, what can you do? Like the key thing here is like don't give don't give out these stupid contracts. The Pope's saying Liverpool in for Barcola. Felice goes to Madrid. Could see Bayern going for Rashford. That's probably at the moment. I think that might be the most likely situation. If you're looking at Rashford, then considering like the avenues open to him, I think Bayern Munich might be the biggest club that he would go to. I don't think someone in the chat mentioned early on in the stream. I can't remember who it was. saying no one in Italy can afford him. I don't think anyone. No, I don't think anyone in Serie A can afford Marcus Rashford. He's too expensive. So if you're looking at the situation now, Liverpool going to go for Barcola. Elise could go to Madrid for huge money. If that's the case, then I could see, put Marcus Rashford in Bayern Munich with Harry Kane. I could see it working very well. But there's no doubt that if he goes to Bayern Munich, he's probably getting he's getting another league title, and they can afford to pay the salaries. They're paying Harry Kane, I believe, over 400k anyway. So I can see that being an option for Marcus Rashford. And the issue for Man United is I'm not sure Man United want to loan him there, so maybe that's going to be an issue. Whether do Bayern Munich want to give Marcus Rashford a contract? I don't think Bayern Munich want to sell Elise. So if Elise goes, I think that Bayern Munich might be getting something insane, like over £200 million for Elise, and in which case, then Marcus Rashford's not going to cost that much. His salary is going to be okay. It's an expensive salary, but Bayern Munich pay expensive salaries, and it's not going to be a problem, is it? They're going to make a lot of profit if they sell Elise, but I don't think they want to sell Elise, but we might see that. That's probably the only scenario I think we can see him leaving the club as well. Just so that if we loan him out, we'll have to pay part of the salary. Not necessarily, Jeff. It depends on the deal. Like it depends where he goes. We might know we might have. I think we paid some of like the salary when we went to Aston Villa, but we don't necessarily have to pay his salary. It depends on obviously for Man United. It depends on the negotiation. We just have to we just have to make sure we don't do that. Ryan says Somerville going to Roma. Um, just an instance that some of the would people be disappointed if Somerville went to Roma? So when we're talking about Somerville, Rafael Leao, is this an issue regarding this one? So I think with the stories, I don't think we're going to be. Yeah. So remember when we said Marshall, Rashford, or Greenwood was the future? Yeah, I do remember saying that, Bilal. I didn't think it was going to be Fenerbahce's future, though. I mean, is Anthony Marshall still available? Like maybe they could get him at Fenerbahce as well. It looks like Fenerbahce are trying to do Man United from about what 7 or 8 years ago, whenever it was. It seems to be, or maybe it's a bit more recent. Do you think Aston? I suppose it depends. Would Aston Villa? One thing I would consider is if Manchester United could send Marcus Rashford to Villa and we got Ollie Watkins in return, then I would do that deal. I think if you can get Ollie Watkins, someone that's going to be probably like a perfect mentor for Sesko, still capable, still a good football player, I would probably do that deal. If we can get a player in we want, then I would get that. I would do that sort of swap deal, which considering how much is Rashford going to cost, how much is Watkins, I would probably do a straight swap and say, if Man United want 25 for Rashford, I'd pay 25 for Watkins. I think Watkins is maybe slightly older, but he would be an effective striker, so I'd do that deal. But I'm not sure if that's going to be an option as well. I think the problem is there's actually less options on the table than there used to be. I think Adeyemi went quite cheap, potentially not so much on his contract. I think when people talked about Adeyemi, there was like a bit of a fallout between him and the club, I believe, and maybe like form issue as well. But Adeyemi wasn't incredibly prolific, very, very quick though, very, very quick. Um, big up to you, Daz. Good to see you in the chat. Yeah, a swap deal could be like a good deal. That I guess with like this, it might depend on Ollie Watkins' contract, how much he's got left on it. I think Ollie Watkins would definitely come to Man United. I think Manchester United would give Ollie Watkins, but I guess he's probably on a decent salary at Villa, but he would be a decent option. And at the moment, if that meant that Man United moved on Rashford, and then we could like bring in Ollie Watkins as someone that does fit what we need, because I think at the moment we're actually absolutely fine. With Champions League bump, he's over 350k a week. I think so. I think so. So that's not going to be a problem for some of the teams we're talking about. Fenerbahce, for example, Galatasaray pay big salaries. Bayern Munich would be fine as well. I think PSG, are looking for younger players. I don't think they're going to be considering someone like Marcus Rashford. He might be, they might have been an option several years ago, but I think now things have changed, haven't they, as well? So let me go through the chat. At the moment, there is a poll as well to vote. If you want to vote regarding what you think is going to happen, then Ryan says there are a lot of United fans that want him back. They should listen to the clubs we were talking about him going to, say Villa, Fenerbahce. Then is there likely to be any sort of twist in this story at all? Because I've said this a few times, and my prediction was like say a while ago, I didn't think I could see Marcus Rashford playing for Manchester United again. Too much had happened. Prediction was it felt like, a little bit like we have this conversation about Onana, Bayern Deer, and when they got loaned out, I go right, that's it, they're gone, they're not going to come back. And when Marcus Rashford got loaned out, my thought was that's it, he's gone, he's not going to come back. It seems like a backward step for the club, and it seems that Marcus Rashford has mentally moved on anyway. And this feels a little bit like they're both in limbo. Either Marcus Rashford needs to accept a short. I think the problem is Man United don't want to take a loan deal for Rashford. So if they did take a loan deal, I think Rashford would take a loan just to go somewhere else, put himself in the shop window to try and get a different club in the future. So I think Rashford will be open to a loan. But I think if Man United want to sell him, I don't see Marcus Rashford signing a long-term contract at Fenerbahce. There's no one that's been interested in him in terms of long-term contract that he wants. That's probably the problem that Marcus Rashford's got. So then look for a few of the comments as well. So no, Pulp says we want him out. His wages, team unity, also the media circus it will bring. Say, mind you, box office for Amazon. Now, yeah, I think the club want to move him on. I think Marcus Rashford wants to leave. The issue is going to be that where does he go? And unfortunately, this story is probably going to run and run, and it's going to be really annoying. And, and Daz says, sell him for 10 million, take a hit. A few people have said that. I think a few people have said, let's go for it. Let's take whatever we can, move the contract on. And I think for United that we would have taken like 25 million from Barcelona. Then if you consider, it depends. Like if Man United keep Rashford for another year, are you going to get any more for him? You're going to have to pay him about 80 million pounds salary per season. If you sell Marcus Rashford now, then any player that comes in is going to be on a contract that's probably half the amount. So you're probably going to save 20 million pounds anyway. If you got sold him for 10 million pounds, then it's not a great deal, is it? It's not a great deal, but it's kind of an end to it, isn't it? And that's the problem. Welcome, Jules, to the chat as well. Welcome, Tommy. And Tommy says, I reckon Rashford will end up in the Saudi League. Cheap price, big wage, suits the general model over there. Maybe. It might be. I get the feeling that Marcus Rashford wants to play for a couple, like maybe a serious team for maybe another couple of years before that happens. But you can see that happening, can't you? You can imagine in a soft league, Marcus Rashford would be able to just like use his speed, score a lot of goals, and maybe go there. But I think it's going to probably question like on what's his motivation now in his career. That is he going to be looking at like one big move? Like I think that Barcelona was like a glamour club in terms of like you go there, bit of prestige, and it didn't work out. So where's he going to go next? Like once you've gone to Man United, Barcelona, there's not many clubs that have the same level. Bayern Munich, possibly you go there, you get a league title. I don't think Real Madrid are going to be remotely interested there as well. Like there is no, we don't know exactly what Mourinho is going to be doing, but it looks like Mourinho is going to offload players to then try and buy at Elise. So I don't think he's going to be looking at Marcus Rashford at all. Mark says, imagine supporting a club that doesn't have all this nonsense and just get on with the job. I know it's been like this way for. It's hard to remember when it first started, but since Man United have had like, I think Ineos are doing better deals, but there does seem to be a bit of a carry on from like the shambles of the Glazer era. Like when we're talking about Marcus Rashford's contract, then I can't remember exactly, but I'm sure that must have was that handed out before Ineos came in. Like Marcus Rashford's been on a huge contract for a while now, and if you think about the Mason choosing Mason Mount over Tielemans, that was like a Glazer decision as well. So there's still a few of these decisions that we made before Ineos came in that are really causing issues as well. And so regarding the big salaries and the salaries that we want to get off the books, maybe Mason Mount, Rashford might be the main ones. Luke Shaw's on a decent salary, but I don't think it's close to like the other ones we got. They're probably the biggest salaries at the club now, aren't they? Then, but at the moment, now our wage bills come down quite a lot, so I don't think financially we've got a big problem. We can amortize deals. I don't think spending's a big problem at the club. It's just that they're probably at the moment is that they've been held back by a bit of ambition from the owners. Now, lots of legends in the chat today. So we could argue football on teletext if they brought it back. It would just, yeah, we could do that. It would just be a little bit slower. But Soy says generally not sure. Say he was in a toxic relationship, two bereavements, disillusionment at the time, and say was he told to track back? Does he carry inhibiting injuries? There's a lot of questions in there. I think with this one, there's a lot of questions about what happened at Man United. Then I still think there's going to be like, do you think there's a scenario where if Rashford did return, is there a scenario where if Michael Carrick's happy with it, his teammates happy with it, do you think fans would change their perception over time? I mean, at the moment, if I ran a poll saying, do you want Marcus Rashford back? I would be willing to bet there'd be very, very few people that want him back. Like very few people. I think so. I think most Man United fans look at it as when a player leaves the club, you don't want to get them back. You want to rebuild. You want to get players that want to play for the club, that want to show determination. And we can argue about Belieber, and we often do, but Belieber is like desperate to play for the club, and you kind of want that sort of mentality in your squad. We've actually got a situation now where the team harmony seems to be perfect, really good, and I just think it'd be a shame to mess it up, like really mess it up. A big shout out to Jeff. Thank you for the super chat, Jeff. Really appreciate that. And Jeff is saying, "Say good stuff this morning, 6:30 a.m. where you are in Texas." And you're saying, have a great day. Hope if it all goes well, he will be gone. And if not, only use as a sub when we need a goal. So one of the things I would say, Jeff, is I think Wayne Rooney might be agreeing with you or might be saying the similar sort of thing because part of this interview, where you can see the screenshot there I've got, if you expand it on Twitter, Wayne Rooney was saying, why would Rashford come back? And Wayne Rooney was like saying, what if he's only there to be used in like cup games as a backup option? Also, Wayne Rooney's thinking, why would Michael Carrick ditch players that performed for him last season? And you'd say, last season, Cunha, Dorgu, players stepped up for Michael Carrick. I don't think Michael Carrick's going to suddenly bench those players that helped him get third place in the Premier League. Like, why would you? It would be, it's potentially like the upside of Rashford. Okay, we know he's like a pacey player. He can score goals, he can carry a threat. The downside is we saw what happened when Man United like seemed to give up in games. Team spirit's disappointing, and I think that the problem's going to be no one knows exactly how this is going to play out. But if his teammates are like, "Great, we've got Rashford, brilliant," and they're enthusiastic about it, then maybe we're going to see that on the pitch. But I think it's difficult to say whether it's going to be good. I think Manchester United is a massive circus. That's why a new stadium looks like a tent, doesn't it? So I'm not surprised. I'm not really surprised that this is happening. But have a great rest of your day, Jeff. So Wayne Rooney isn't adverse to taking an easy way out as he was prepared to leave us in the lurch in 2011, says Berber. Do you remember? I think Wayne Rooney asked the ambition of the club, didn't he? So I think Rooney, I think what he was saying was Rooney wanted to win things, and he questioned whether Man United was actually going to go in the same direction as it was under Ferguson, where United used to be buying the best players in the league. And Wayne Rooney was used to that. He was one of those players. And I think when Rooney was at the club, he saw, he looked around the team he had, and he had Rio Ferdinand, Vidic, Cristiano Ronaldo, Van der Sar. And I think Wayne Rooney said what fans were thinking. Like, I'm playing at this club. Obviously, we're not playing there, but Wayne Rooney's looking at it thinking, if I'm going to sign another contract, what the hell's going on? Are we going to start signing some good players? So at the time, I can see why Wayne Rooney did that. And I think that he was questioning the mentality of or the ambition of the club the same way we are. But for us, like we're going to be fans for a long time. But I think with Wayne Rooney, he obviously didn't have as much time, so he needed to know quite quickly whether the team was going to actually go for good players. So I can see where Wayne Rooney said that. I mean, you can't argue with Wayne Rooney's dedication as a football player. He was like, always like focused, always like on it. Ian says Rashford let the fans down. It doesn't matter about teammates, character, or anyone else. Rashford turned his back on the fans long ago. Now, hopefully we don't have to have this conversation in um, like a few months' time with Marcus Rashford in the squad. Then hopefully that this gets resolved either sooner rather than later. Pop says, I've got no issues with Rashford. The issue is with the fans and the media circus it could or will cause. And so other players have done far worse. Rashford literally carried club on his back under Ollie. We forget that as well. And opposite view from Daz saying, if they take Rashford back, that'll piss you right off. Yeah, it will cause a media circus as well, 100%. And Con says, let's face it, no one can reach the ceiling we reached from those we currently have. No, I think at the moment, the team we got, then, yeah, I think we got a situation at the club where I don't think many people look at the squad and go, great, title challenge next season. So he was toxic at a time when the club was at its most toxic. Fans are toxic. Everyone was toxic, and say we were all disillusioned. It wasn't a great time, was it? Yeah, I can't say too much about Greenwood, but the way that played out, I think most people hoped it would have been different years ago. No, so good football player at the time. If Rashford was on a modest wage, says Jules, 150K, would supporters have a different view on wanting him to be kept or sold? It's possible. I think the thing that causes most people anger is, say, Europa League final when Manchester United lost under Ollie and Rashford was really poor. And then you can argue and say, oh, was he carrying an injury? And I think in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's last game, wasn't Marcus Rashford one of the people that wanted to come off at halftime that said they didn't want to play for him? So when you see those sort of stories, it's um it's really difficult to push out positive PR, isn't it? So when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's coming out and saying, we're under pressure, things are not going well, and there's certain players that want to not even go out for the second half. I can't remember who the names. Like I think Rashford was one of them. I can't remember who the other guy was, but when you hear that, and it might have been, I'm trying to think it was. I don't want to say without knowing, but I can't remember who it was. But if that happens, then you can see why there's that negativity. Mark says, Darlow, Tielemans, Santos, this is terrible people, not good enough. Do you know what the problem? The problem is, Malps, is that we've kind of like done. If we had like three or four other signings, plus Tielemans, plus Santos, plus Darlow, then we probably wouldn't be scrutinising the transfer window quite as much. It's annoying, isn't it? It all depends on what happens over the next probably 6 weeks. Like, is it I'm trying to think, or is it even longer? It might be another 2 months to go before the transfer window properly shuts, and even then, I think some of the markets are open a bit longer as well. But no, at the moment, like yeah, Darlow is basically a backup goalkeeper. Darlow is probably like a Tom Heaton replacement, and Santos and Tielemans are decent options, but they're not going to push the needle in the right direction, are they, for Man United? And Berg was saying, I was thinking I'd rather Rashford back than Martinez if it was a choice. Um, yeah, I'm trying to avoid going down that route, but yeah, no, Yeah, he's yeah. This is what I yeah. To be honest, like, this is something that I did here. I can't remember where the source was for it, whether it was like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, a quote or an interview. But when I heard that, I was like, yeah, that's crossed the line. If that's true, that no, it's yeah. Were there any complaints from Barcelona of Rashford when he was there? How is his overall application? I think he did fine when he was there. I think his like goals and assists per like 90 is that decent. I think he's like did absolutely fine. I think Barcelona just used him to get a title, and that's it. And yeah, at the moment the midfield is nowhere near, is there? Ian says Rashford had so much potential. He really could have been one of the top players. And do you know what the problem is? I think Marcus Rashford at 18, 19, 20 looked unbelievable. And when you have that sort of start to your career, I don't think he ever got past a certain level. So I don't know what it was. I don't know what, maybe he wasn't capable of getting past that certain level, but it wasn't the same as like someone like Giggs explodes onto the scene and Giggs just got better and better. Cristiano Ronaldo just got better and better. And I think Marcus Rashford started off really good. He kind of hit a level, like at a certain level where he just didn't seem to improve beyond that. But I think we saw a similar Rashford in the World Cup as well, where he looked quite dangerous. He looked quite threatening, but then there was always like question mark over it. It didn't quite work out. He didn't make the right decisions, etc. So it's just one of those that never quite got to the level we wanted. Yeah, well, Paris Saint-Germain, he was great. Leipzig, he was great. It's just I think it's maybe with Rashford, like he's obviously very good at what he's very good at what he does, but he's not got as many like facets to his career as like say someone like Beckham had more. Like Beckham could cross the ball, but Beckham could finish. Beckham made better decisions. He wasn't blessed with lots of pace. I think Rashford has got a lot of pace, and that can sometimes, it does mean that he can get away with certain things as well. But yeah, no. So we'll move on from this. Like, say, you think fans overrated Rashford? I guess with like this one, I think fans want. I think fans want players to do well, don't they? So you could say that maybe people overrate certain players. Like, did Anthony Marshall get overrated? Like, he was exceptional in some games early on. Did Greenwood get a bit overrated, overhyped? He's now at Fenerbahce, so he's obviously got some other issues there as well. I guess like you could probably say couple of years ago, a couple of years ago, you could probably say Garnacho got overrated. He looked like a decent player when he came through from the academy, but in 2 seasons at Man United, like say in the first team, I just didn't see Garnacho improve. The player we saw when he broke in from the academy was the player that left for Chelsea, in my view. Like he had the same kind of like that he could still run with the ball. He was never elite in terms of speed. He never made the right decisions. His finishing was always a bit hit and miss. He was capable of something brilliant, but it wasn't that frequently. So I think Garnacho was a bit overrated. But Garnacho hasn't even got to the level that Rashford got. Um, No, that's the one player I wish we hadn't sold Beckham, but Alex Ferguson was a bit brutal, wasn't he? If you consider Manchester United used to move on players like we got rid of Yapstam, Van Nistelrooy, and Beckham for sometimes potentially non-footballing reasons, and look at the players we've got now. We've kept some mediocre players for a long time. So Con saying if he plays through the middle, Bruno can find him over the top. We can score more goals. Now, if he's part of the team, then we're going to have to, what's the word? I don't know. It's going to be not ideal, is it? Like I think most Man United fans, like I said, we've moved on from Rashford. I said probably about a month ago, I'm not going to talk about Rashford unless there's information. And because, like I said, that the sources that we're talking about it was David Ornstein. And I've been ignoring most sources now, most journalists in this window because a lot of them are guessing. But when David Ornstein was saying like, okay, there's an exit fee hasn't been met, and it seems that Marcus Rashford's actually rejected more lucrative offers. That for me tells me that there's probably like one or two clubs that Marcus Rashford would go to, but I think at the moment I think it could still be about money, but I think it's about long-term money. So Marcus Rashford will make more money going to Fenerbahce possibly, and maybe that's what they thought. But then once he's gone to Fenerbahce, his options might be Saudi Pro League money, and I think Marcus Rashford wants to play at a top competition, but I don't think there's any teams that want to then give him um, that sort of cash. Yeah, I think Bowen's thing at West Ham would be ideal. So went on to greatest team of all time. If you ask you, well, I think Beckham was like part of the Galactico team, wasn't he? Like genuine Galactico team with R9, Figo, etc., etc. Saying point your fingers at Ineos and Glazers and not Rashford, says Bilal. And yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Rashford didn't hand himself a contract. I think some of these problems, some of the mess and some of the erosion of standards is a Glazers thing, isn't it? That they've allowed some of these things to actually happen as well. Galactica won, I think that they won one Champions League, didn't they? They won one Champions League in about, was it 2001 or two, when Zidane scored a really good goal. I'm guessing, was it against Leverkusen or someone? I can't remember exactly who they beat in the final, but Real Madrid won a Champions League 3-0, I believe. I can't remember when it was, but it was around the start of the century. But no, it was, to be honest, actually, I'd say that the Real Madrid team that had Gareth Bale, Tony Cruz, Modric, Benzema, Ronaldo, Marcelo. Actually, the team's so good, people can name most of the team. I think that team that won, with Zidane in charge, won four Champions League titles. That was a ridiculous team, wasn't it? And Tommy says, the professionalism bar was set long ago at our club. Rashford knows what's required of him. He bottled it. He's not good enough. Doesn't have the right attitude to be truly successful. Just a money man, says Tommy. The thing is, like Marcus Rashford had everything at his feet, didn't he? You come in as a teenager, you get you get a few opportunities, then it's what you do with it that it counts, doesn't it? And I think as soon as you break through to the Man United first team, I think a lot of people think that you kind of made it, whereas in reality, you're just starting, aren't you? You've got to prove that you're good enough week in, week out, and there should be more competition. At the moment, like Cunha is proving he wants to be a Man United player week in, week out. And I think that's what you want to see. And at the moment, when people talk about bringing players through, Dorgu, like I could see if there had been no drama, if Marcus Rashford had been say Marcus Rashford was playing in AC Milan for 10 years, a bit like Rafa Leao, I would take Rashford over Leao. I think he's a better player. I think he carries more goal threat, quicker. But the problem is, we're not talking about Marcus Rashford playing for a different club, are we? We're talking about what he did with Man United. And I think for fans, like respecting the club is a big thing. And I think that's why, I think that's why people are kind of drawing the line a little bit. Greenwood, yeah, maybe Greenwood was overrated a bit. If you think about where his career's gone, and I think Marseille, people thought Marseille was right. You get out of Man United, go to a big club. If he'd gone to Paris Saint-Germain, which was, I think people did think was on the cards, maybe we'd be talking about it in a different light. But he went to Fenerbahce, so in all regards, I think his career is going to be like forgotten about in a few years' time if that works out. Welcome, Talk Forest TV. Good to see you, my friend. Hope you're good. How are you spending how are you spending the Anderson money? I did see a player linked to you. I can't remember who it was now, but there was like someone I was thinking, okay, but no, it looks like you're going to have a bit of a busy transfer window. Do you think how United have been over the year? Do you think if he came in the Ferguson era, it would be a different person? I think that I would say with Alex Ferguson, if Marcus Rashford had come back, no, if Marcus Rashford had been a Manchester United player under Alex Ferguson, I think the standards were very high, and he'd have to fit in pretty rapidly, or he wouldn't be part of Manchester United. So I think it would have been different. I think United had this criteria at the time where Giggs had to fall in line. Okay, admittedly, Ryan Giggs is not a good example because of, but on the pitch as a football player, good example. And you look at other players as well that if it didn't work out, you might get moved on. Now, popular players like Lee Sharp got moved on. you can see also other players get moved on during Alex Ferguson's tenure. But I think you had to be a model professional to survive that era. Like the era of say early '90s, mid '90s, it was very much about you've got to be focused on winning and improving and fighting for your position. So United moved on good players in that era to other clubs if they didn't think they were quite up to it. So I think it would be different, and that's why now Ineos have just run the club in a pretty poor way. I was hoping Greenwood would go for massive money because we had like this ridiculous sell-on clause, didn't we? We had like, and unfortunately, we still got about 10, 12 million from the deal. So we still got like a decent amount of money, but it could have been more, couldn't it? So I'm a bit disappointed it wasn't more. Greenwood was playing in the Farmers League, said Bilal. Yeah, I think he put up okay numbers, but Ian says Greenwood wasn't overrated, special, but he messed it up, and you never recover from that loss, knowing you had the world and lost it over your own stupidity. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Um, what was your point regarding Paul Ince? Like Paul Ince was a good player for Man United. I think people don't like him so much because he left. I was talking to an Inter Milan fan actually at a barbecue last Friday, and he was a big fan of Ince. Ince was a good player for Inter Milan. But he's probably one of those players that I can't even remember what the reason was he left Man United, unless he fell out with Ferguson, which again, that would be another example of a good football player that was doing well on the pitch. 1994 double team, unbelievable, like really good. About Greenwood, are we wrong looking back at it? Madrid didn't consider Pepe, so killing people on the pitch, and we all forget about what Woodgate did. Um, I don't know. I mean, it's gone now, and it's difficult to like readdress it. At the time, I think Manchester United are also you have to look at it as well in terms of if you say you consider like different brands. Manchester United obviously they're looking at trying to bring advertising, sponsorship, and things, and I think it's not good to have that sort of story. Like, we can look at other clubs and what other clubs have done, but Man United needs to be at the highest possible standard, I think. And if you're looking at the situation, consider what happened like when I think when Tiger Woods had that issue with his was it an affair or something, and instantly gets dropped from Nike. So if you look what happens with like sort of people like Nike and sponsors, they just disappear. And I think regardless of what you think about Greenwood, then it was always going to be like Man United are always going to be like no, he's going to be gone. So I think you can look at other clubs have done with different players, but I think Man United are looking at they were always going to move them on. It's just yeah tricky. Do we make 40 million on Greenwood in total? So, yeah, how much do we make? I think we sold Greenwood for 25 million. Then from the sell on clause, I think we got 10. So it's probably about maybe like 35 million we made. Craig says, I've always been a fan. Yeah, I have always been a fan of Rashford. And I have said this when I was watching Rashford, say, when Red Devil United was a channel and we were talking about Rashford in the Champions League and games he played. But I think the problem is, Craig, things change, don't they? And when I read that he refused to come out for I think it was the Watford game under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think too much has changed, isn't it? The problem is, if we're talking about 22-year-old Marcus Rashford, 23-year-old Marcus Rashford, 24-year-old Marcus Rashford, it's a different conversation. And now we're looking at what's happened over the last 3 or 4 years. I don't know. I think we just need to move on, and it's just I would feel that it's almost like an indication that when Man United looked at moving Marcus Rashford on, and there was all this drama, lots of negativity at the time, it feels like Man United have, that as a club, have like engineered this position where we did the same with Onana and Sancho. If you come out and say, right, these players are going, these players are being kicked out of the club essentially, then it makes it difficult to sell them. And if we're a bit more, if we're a bit more of a clever club or we were run better, surely we could have engineered a deal where it seems crazy we haven't managed to sell Marcus Rashford. And I blame Ineos and the Glazers for all the crap they were putting out there to start with. But we'll see. If he comes back to Man United, then I mean, obviously we hope he does well if he plays Man United. I just, for some reason, I just can't really see it happening. We'll have to see. To be honest, I don't know the subject of Pepe, so I can't really can't really talk about it. What was the story about Paul Ince, the governor? Yeah, again, I think once it's happened, Ian, like the club made the decision, and that he's gone. I think at the time, like G Wolf actually was one of probably the most vocal people that wanted to keep him as well. But I think Man United made the decision that they weren't going to change their mind. Solly says Rashford as a player, the attributes very good, should be competing with the likes of Dembele and Mbappe. Then, yeah, maybe you could say like a few years ago, people were questioning how self self-proclaimed governor. Maybe that's what upset Alex Ferguson, the fact he was self-proclaimed. It's also saying Ollie gave up by the feel of it, couldn't deal with those characters. He should have thrown players under the bus instead of protecting them, says Jules. Yeah, maybe like it just shows the character of like, I think Solskjaer just, I think when you see Solskjaer's interviews, I think he comes across as a Man United fan as well, doesn't he? So I think the issue with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, maybe he was like too nice. Like maybe Solskjaer was like too nice to players. I think that's one of the people question. And maybe Michael Carrick's going to be a bit different. We don't know. Again, Michael Carrick doesn't have a say in this, really, does he? That if when I saw the opinion piece from Wayne Rooney, where's Wayne Rooney's article or his interview? Like Wayne Rooney's taking a view where Marcus Rashford should leave. If he gets integrated, then he's not going to be playing the key games. He thinks it's a mistake if Michael Carrick then ditches the players that did well from last season. And I think Wayne Rooney makes a credible point there that it might be a mistake. I mean, the upside is obvious, isn't it? Oh yeah, that was it. I saw a Spurs player. Well, at the time, I was thinking like Spurs have got Tonali, they've got who else is it? Fernandez. Yeah, I should remember that because they're Man United targets. And I was thinking, yeah, no, Spurs are going to be offloading some players as well. Do you want Marcus Rashford? I mean, you got Alanga, you got a good profit on Alanga. Marcus Rashford is like the next person, isn't he? He's probably not as fast as Alanga, but he's probably going to score more goals, which, given like Alanga's recent years, is probably not going to be too much of a high target to make. But the only problem with Marcus Rashford is really high salary. That's the only problem. Really high salary. Will I drop Dorgu for Rashford? Dorgu's look really good. No, I would be thinking if Marcus Rashford comes back to Man United, they might put Dorgu as left back, and then they might not sign a proper left back, and they might not sign a left-sided player. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I think it hinders us a little bit. If Marcus Rashford leaves, it kind of forces Man United to replace him, doesn't it? It's the same as like Luke Shaw playing the whole season last season. I hope that doesn't put Man United off getting a left back because again, that would be a problem as well. So let me close the poll. I did want to see what people think. Like, do you think that we're going to be having Rashford part? I assume it's part two, isn't it? It can't be any more than that. So, oh, this is going to be close. Really, really close. So, looking at the poll, let's get the results. It's going to be close to 50-50. I don't even know who I'd vote for. If I was going to guess with Rashford returns, right, will Rashford play for Manchester United next season? No, say 53%. Yes, say 47%. That's about as close as it possibly can be. So, yeah, we're going to be live tonight, 7 p.m. Just to let you know, we're going to have a couple of guests on. So, Dora's going to come on. I think G Wolf's going to come on as well, 7 p.m. We're going to be looking forward to pre-season, so we might be able to cover a bit of transfer stories if there are transfer stories, but the focus might be on Man United playing Wrexham on Saturday. We're going to be looking at pre-season, which players are available. I think at the moment there's I don't think Tielemans can play because of his injury, so we might be looking at other options in and around the squad. Maybe we're looking at Mason Mount, maybe we're looking at Santos midfield. So that might be the discussion tonight. And maybe we're looking at Darlow playing in goal. So we might be looking at that and saying, pre-season will start. There might be a calling show for people that tune in for calling shows as well. We'll probably do a calling show tomorrow to discuss the Wrexham game, but also just to give you guys an opportunity to discuss what how the new signings performed, if we see any in the team. Maybe we see some academy players play in the team as well. So there could be a few things to talk about regarding this one. But pre-season after what seems like the crazy, crazy long World Cup. So I think it's 4 p.m. kickoff tomorrow. So presumably then the match would finish about 6 p.m. So it could be like a 6 p.m. to a 7 p.m. call-in stream. If people are up for that, we can do a quick one. What I can do is I can set it up, and if it's not popular, we'll just do like a 30-minute show. But if you want to come on, have their say, we'll certainly provide that opportunity. And if you're new to the channel and you've enjoyed probably moaning about Rashford today, probably a lot of moaning on the channel about Ineos and things that are happening. Please subscribe, but we will be more optimistic when better news happens as well. So Darlow and Dallow, it's not exactly the dream team, is it? It's not. It's not kind of like what I was looking forward to. And Kevin says, just as about to finish, says we should get Crescencio Somerville. I just call him Somerville. So maybe he's going to go to Roma, and maybe that's going to be something we can't get done. We have to be a bit quicker, don't we? A bit quicker as well. Don't forget to smash the likes. Who's going to be the pre-season Pirlo? Is going to be something to discuss tonight. So 7 p.m., 8 p.m. tonight. Sorry, 7 p.m. starts to 8 p.m. tonight. We're going to be discussing pre-season, and also it's an opportunity for Dora and G-Wolf to have their say on what they want to see in pre-season, and people that are joining as well. Now you have been, Ryan. You've been very diplomatic and very reserved, and let's try and forget about him. And it might be difficult if he plays next season and scores some good goals. It might be difficult to not say something positive, but we'll see. A long way to go. A long way to go before anything like that happens as well. You compared to, see, I like Lasagna, so I don't really get the comparison. I don't know. I would say though, to be fair, Lasagna doesn't track back. It's pretty much static, although it lacks the pace, unfortunately. Um, Say, Didier Deschamps has refused his players a free evening in Miami, demanding full focus on the third place playoff. God's sake. If I was Manu, I would just refuse to play the third place playoffs. Nonsense, nonsense. I hope Tuchel gets sacked. Come on, Mbappe hat trick, get the golden boot. I don't want to see Messi getting the golden boot. I just can't see I just can't see the point of a third place match. That's all I'll say. Or you go from like a World Cup semi-final, third place match. What is the point? What is the point? Will we have a Joe Kinnear situation where we get Dallow and Darlow mixed up? I bloody hope not. I don't want to see Dallow on the pitch, let alone in goal. Um, so, like he did when he signing Carl Court instead of Jason Newell. Yeah, I don't know. Do you like a bit of a drink? Is there something in that, like possibly some meat but watery cheese on top? Yeah, exactly. Not a description. Talk Forest TV says FIFA corrupted the World Cup. Someone sent me a little video this morning. Someone I know nearby, and the video was of I think it was Spence getting fouled by Messi, where he stood on his foot just before he put in the cross for the winning goal, and compare it to the Messi. No, actually compare it to the foul that deprived Egypt of one of the best goals in the World Cup. It's exactly the same situation. So no consistency, and again, Argentina end up with a win. I still blame Tuchel, but I think FIFA referees it should have been extra time. It should have been 1-1, and I still think it would have been difficult. But it's a bit annoying, isn't it? I still blame Tuchel overall as well. It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's ridiculous. I think I think France have lodged a complaint to FIFA, but it's not going to make any difference. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? Um, no, I'm hoping that as well. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna have to head off. 7 p.m. tonight for the Wrexham preview. As now people mentioned that they're looking forward to pre-season. Unless that if there is like some sort of genuine transfer story, we'll cover it. But in the absence of that, it will be focused on pre-season. But thank you for watching, and we will catch you guys in about 6 hours' time. Also, big up to Talk Forest TV, one of the best Forest channels out there as well. Thanks for getting the chat as well, my friend. And please check out Talk Forest TV. If you want to get opinions on like non-Man United fans, then good place to go. And we will see you guys in about say 5.5 hours with the Wrexham preview.